Hello, everybody, and welcome to our presentation from the FIAP Photo Academy online events. And today we are being joined by Marco Gaiotti. And those of you who have been here before will remember Marco. He was one of the first speakers that we had when we started the Academy 4 years ago. And he was so good and so excellent in his images and his presentation that we have asked him to return and to give us another presentation. So it's marvelous that you're all here, and we say you're all more than welcome, and it's great to see you. Before we start, I know our president, Riccardo Bussi, has a few words he would like to say to everybody. So Riccardo, the microphone is yours.
Yes, thanks, dear friend. So, dear fellow photographers, ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to this new appointment of the FIAP Photo Academy. Another evening, I'm sure, perfectly organized by our director of the FIAP Photo Academy, Paul Stanley. For the first time in the FIAP Photo Academy, we have decided to invite again an author who has already been our guest. The reason behind this decision is very simple. 4 years ago, his presentation was so successful that as soon as we learned that he had produced the new photos, we didn't let this opportunity slip away. So this author who considered nature photography as a strong interaction between wildlife and the surrounding environment, and who has won the most prestigious World Nature Competition, is our friend Marco Gaiotti from Italy. So thank you, dear Marco, and welcome again in the FIAP Photo Academy evenings. On my personal behalf, on behalf of the board of the International Federation, and on behalf of all the friends who decide to attend our FIAP event today. So we are really very happy to see you here again, and I wish you, caro Marco, a great success for your presentation. And as always,
thank you.
Grazie Marco. Ora lo dico in italiano, So, and as always, I will now have the pleasure of handing the microphone over to my friend Paul Stanley, who will introduce our special guest in more detail. Well, dear friends, thank you again for your participation, and looking forward to meeting you all soon again. I wish you all a nice night and enjoy our events. See you soon. Bye.
Thank you very much, Riccardo. And so Marco Gaiotti, as we said, he's been here before, but for those of you who do not know who Marco is, as Riccardo said, he was born in Genoa in Italy. And in 2007, he discovered, almost by chance, the wild environments of Southern Africa, and with them, a passion for nature photography. And that drives him every year to explore the most uncontaminated habitats of our planet. He's been to Alaska. He has participated in expeditions to the Svalbard Islands a few days before the Arctic night. And he has been honored with numerous awards, including the Sony WPA Nature's Best, the Winland Smith Rice International Awards, a Memorial Maria Luisa, and many other awards. Marco loves the unspoiled natural landscapes. In his landscape, he subtly gives way to different animal species, such as polar bears, walruses, Arctic foxes, and seals. And his photos are distinguished by the magical soft lights that illuminate the landscape, or maybe it's the dramatic skies. But in any case, his images are a feast for the eyes. And as we said before, we're really thrilled and delighted that he's here with us. So I'm now going to stop speaking, and I'm going to say, Marco, you're more than welcome, and I'll hand the microphone over to you, and we will sit back and enjoy your presentation.
Thank you very much, Paul. Thank you, Riccardo, for this very kind invitation. It's always a pleasure to show to this academy my work. This presentation will cover most of my work over the last 4 years. So it's mostly some fresh materials, but also there is something probably you have already seen. So I'll try to merge everything together, but there is also a few very fresh photos that I took last week in the Himalayas. I'm just back from a snow leopard expedition that was extremely successful, so you'll be the first one to see the results, and I hope you'll enjoy it. I am not a professional photographer, actually. I'm an academic, but I spend most of my 100% of my free time and even more in the wild. I have quite plenty of free time, and I'm quite flexible regarding destination and projects. So I'm quite lucky. I can travel pretty much wherever I want. And what I like is to merge landscape photography to wildlife photography. I started as a landscape photographer, but gradually I turned into a wildlife photographer. So I can start my presentation now and share my screen first. Sorry. Share screen. Okay. Can you all see the presentation? Does it work?
We can. Yes, it is indeed. Thank you.
Good. So why did I start with this project or long-term project where I combine wildlife photography to landscape photography? If we look at the red list of species that are threatened by extinction, 80% of those species are in the red list because of habitat loss. So it's not a direct action that humans do against wildlife, but it's something that involves their habitat. And the fact that habitat is disappearing due to human consumption makes the distribution of some wildlife species extremely scattered. So especially for those species that require a large range, for example, this Sumatran orangutan, when you break the forest into small patches of wood and you separate those population, interbreeding became a serious challenge for the conservation of those species. But initially, as I said before, I started as a landscape photographer, and currently I didn't realize that there was any conservation issues regarding to what I was doing. I simply enjoyed taking those kind of frames where I included wildlife into landscape photos. So I had no interest into conservation at all. I simply enjoyed the result. But I realized that when taking those photos, the habitat itself became an important element in the frame. So it was difficult to tell whether it was a landscape photo or a wildlife photo. So I just started by chance. I started this because I liked the result quite a lot and didn't care about conservation. So I simply enjoyed mixing beautiful landscape and putting some animals inside. But later I realized that what I liked, so the background, the habitat, was really disappearing at a super fast rate. And here are some examples of what I mean. For example, this place is Lake Nakuru National Park. I began to travel to this place in 2009, so it's been already 15 years. And suddenly, for some reason, in 2014, the water level began to rise. And also, there is a very big city just next to to this lake. This is the second largest city in Kenya, Nakuru City. And initially, in this national park, you only had 250 meters corridors for the wildlife. You can see it in the picture taken from Google Maps. Between the lake and the city, the park was fenced because it's not good to have lions in town. But this very, very small corridor later was completely flooded by the rising level of the water. So this habitat almost completely disappeared because of this quite strong human pressure around the lake shore. It's still a beautiful place. There are still beautiful animals. Some areas in the forest are still very nice. So I still invite people to travel to this place because it's still a special areas. Another example is the Simien Mountains National Park in Ethiopia. It's a very remote areas with peaks above 3,000 meters. Some of them are 4,500 meters high. By the way, we have two levels of anthropic pressures here. One is down from the valley with agriculture, and the other one is from the villages that are on top of the plateau that with their activity are actually pushing wildlife towards the edge of this cliff, of this sharp and tall mountains. For example, you see the image here in yellow. It's the only remaining habitats for gelada baboon, which is an endemic species of Ethiopia. And in green, you see the left habitat for the Walia ibex, which is one of the rarest animals in the world, with only 400 animals remaining here in the wild. Here are some photos of the two animals together, Walia ibex and gelada baboon. It's still a beautiful animal. It's not considered under threat, but you can imagine how strong is the human pressure here. You really see year by year that the areas remaining for wildlife is shrinking at a very fast rate. And also the habitat is super nice with this high ground. This monkey, they are grass eaters. It means that they feed on grass that grows on the plateau, but every night they sleep on the rocks on a steep cliff, just because they are preyed by animals like hyenas and leopards. So they just prefer to sleep on these very, very steep areas. By the way, they come every day on top of the plateau to graze, but also cows and sheep share the same environment, so their habitat is shrinking because of the growing human pressure in these areas. And this is also quite a popular photo of the family of a mother with the baby and another female in the family. It's very beautiful here because you are on top of the plateau, which is almost 4,000 meters high, from where I took this picture. And especially in the rainy season, you see thunderstorm approaching. You're literally above the clouds. So it's very nice to include the background, to include the weather in the background. And also there is the steep gorge. This is a 900 meters vertical drop where this powerful waterfall falls in the rainy season. And here you can see gelada baboons, but also other endangered species like this rupal vulture or another griffon vulture flying through the gorge. But still in Ethiopia, there is another similar place regarding conservation issues about human pressure, and this is the Bali Mountain National Park. Here, it's one of the best habitat for the Ethiopian wolf, which is the rarest canid on Earth. Only 400 individual remains in this habitat. 200 live on this plateau. The plateau is 4,000 meters above the sea level high, and here we could see the how COVID affected those areas, because when tourism stopped, people had to find how to survive, so they went back to the agriculture and also to other activities like growing cows. And you see a bigger number of herds of cows on this plateau nowadays, just because tourism stopped and people had to find how to survive. Here you see 4 Ethiopian wolves photographed at sunrise, and this is actually 1% of the total population of this animal. So this is the reason why I wrote this 1% here. It's a beautiful animal, very nice to photograph, but it's also one of the most difficult animal to photograph in the wild because it is extremely shy. If it sees you even from far in the distance, even 200 meters away, it will just run away from you. So it's really, really challenging to approach this animal and take good photos and to work with lights and background. Not really an easy animal. Another example is the Sumatran orangutan. Here you see the forest of Sumatra starting from about 100 years ago up to now. And you see that between year 2000 and 2010, the oil palm plantations took a huge fraction of the original rainforest in this area. So you see how scattered are the population of Sumatran orangutans nowadays. It's very difficult to talk about conservation when interbreeding is the only possibility for those animals. It's very difficult to rebuild wildlife corridors in this area. And this is a popular frame of the wild. This is a wild animal I met hiking in Sumatra. This is my 4th day of hiking inside the forest, and we met this individual. It was a great encounter because probably hadn't seen humans before, very few, and the behavior was really interesting to observe. It was very curious. He wanted to check what we were and just stopped a few meters from us, and then it relaxed and allowed us for some wide-angle photos, which is always nice. Madagascar, another example. Now we are trying to replant the forest, but it's still difficult to recover this habitat. So this is another sad example of how the rainforest had been cut to. This is mainly due because of human wanted to cut woods from this forest. It started centuries ago, but now there is only a few patches of the original rainforest that used to cover the eastern side of the Madagascar. Beautiful animals, nice eyes, very interesting. But here are some successful stories also. For example, red-crowned cranes, they were believed to be eradicated from Hokkaido at the beginning of the previous century. But then people found 2 pairs of nesting red-crowned cranes in a marsh near Kushiro. So big efforts was put into the protection of these animals, and nowadays the species recovered, and the numbers are quite good for these species. And here you can see 2 red foxes fighting in front of the red-crowned cranes. Or more recently, I've been working with Iberian lynx for the last 3 years, and it's incredible to see how quickly it was disappearing. But later, starting in 2003, the population gradually began to grow, and especially in one small area in Sierra Morena, now the numbers are growing rapidly, and it's started to regain its original range. So this is another successful story of conservation. Here you see a cub on a rock. This is an adult with beautiful green eyes. Still, the mimicry is incredible. It's really difficult to spot this animal. Some backlights with silhouette of the lynx, and this is the environment of the lynx. You see big stones, you see an oak tree. I really love when you can combine all these landscape elements in my composition. The Arctic. I've traveled several times to the Arctic over the last 15 years, and this is another disappearing habitat. Again, not because of a direct human action, but climate change is changing very, very rapidly this environment, the Arctic is warming twice as fast as the rest of the planet. It's simply absorbing the excess of heat which is generated in other temperate areas, and it's drained towards the Arctic. So ice is melting quick, but also the sea temperature is rising dramatically. If you think of Svalbard Islands, for example, the temperature of the ocean on the west coast of Svalbard, in average, has rise by 6 degrees Celsius over the last 20 years, which is an incredible rise in the temperature. And some Arctic species, they depend on the sea ice because, for example, polar bears, they need sea ice for hunting. Here you see some images taken in winter. This is a polar bear in Billefjorden in Svalbard in front of Nordenskjöld Glacier. And you see the Arctic lights as a background, very, very beautiful background. Same bear, same background, a bit closer. Or this is probably the most popular one I took. This is from 2018. No, sorry, 2018. And this bear is hunting on sea ice, hunting for seals. But also seals, they need sea ice, and it's also another interesting story. This photo was taken last year, so it's quite a fresh photo. This is from Greenland, and I took part to an expedition to northeastern Greenland in the late summer, and it is difficult to find polar bears in Greenland. The population is quite big, but also the area is extremely wide, and they are still hunted by locals. So you have to travel quite far away from Selman if you want to meet polar bears. And we were lucky to find this curious young bear on top of a huge blue iceberg, which was the perfect background for these photos. And I have to say that this is one of the most incredible encounter I had in the wild. Yeah, we were in the middle of the ocean with these huge icebergs stranded in the fast ice. So they were entrapped in the fast ice, and we found this bear, and the bear decided to climb on one of those icebergs. So it was really special. Some older photos of silhouette. This is quite popular. It was used for Prints for Wildlife campaign. It's an high-key photo of a bear in the summertime. And these are older images of polar bears when they wait on land for the sea ice to come back. And this is their habitat in the summertime. The fact is that basically they can only hunt for seals when they are on ice, and it's very difficult for them to find food when they are stranded on land. They are adapted to survive for several months, even without ice, so they can accumulate huge fat reserves. But if they don't hunt, they need to burn at least 1 kilo of fat per day. So the longer is the period without sea ice, the lesser are the chances for the bear to survive until the next winter comes. They are really they are adapted to this environment. Of course, you have to think that they can assimilate 95% of the blubber they eat, and they grow rapidly in weight when they begin to hunt again. A friend of mine is doing a PhD in polar bears, and they told me that they found a female that was super skinny after the summer season, and her weight was only 60 kilos. So they thought the bear was going to die, but after 3 months of successful hunting, they found the bear again, and the weight of this bear was above 400 kilos. So it's incredible how quickly they can regain their weight if they can actively hunt. As said before, they can assimilate 95% of the fat they eat and only 65% of the protein. So if they find blubber, they basically put blubbers in their bodies, and their weight increases. But as said before, it's getting quite challenging for them because the sea ice melts very early in the season. It's not everywhere like this in the Arctic, but talking about Svalbard, for example, I know Svalbard very well. The season without the sea ice is becoming longer and longer every year, and especially late in the season, the sea ice doesn't come back until December or sometimes even later. So the future of this species is quite uncertain. They can adapt probably, but it's difficult to tell what's going to happen. But it's not the only species that depend on the sea ice. Here you see an ivory gull. It's a bird that stays in the Arctic the whole year, doesn't migrate to the south. So it's very interesting to spot them. There are seals. This is an harbor seal. Usually, it wasn't common to find harbor seals so far in the north, but climate change is actually making the habitat far in the north more suitable for this seal. So the number of harbor seal has been growing rapidly over the last 5-6 years, while it's getting more challenging for the ring seals, for example. Walrus, it's another species that is expanding rapidly in the Arctic. It had been hunted almost towards the extinction in Svalbard, but after it became a protected species, its number grew rapidly, and now it's easy to find walrus pretty much everywhere in Svalbard. And this photos were taken in 2020. We visited this colony 2 times that year in the summertime, and Arctic wildlife is often very curious. So you don't have to chase wildlife to take a good photo. You just have to sit down, relax, and probably they will try and approach you and check what you are. They're not, they don't see so many people, so they are extremely curious. This photo was taken just sitting, relaxed on a beach, and the walrus came and checked because they were extremely curious. This is from a boat from a Zodiac, and also all the pods wanted to check me, and they came out all together. And also the background was really special. That evening was really good for photography. I used the wide angle. I knew the walrus would come towards me, so I put the wide angle close to the water and just waited for the walrus to pop up, and took these photos. The light is the typical light you have in the Arctic in September. So at the end of the summer, the sun is always quite low on the horizon, and it's quite nice for photography. If it's not too cloudy, then the light is quite special. Another iconic Arctic species is the muskox. This photo is taken in Norway, so it's a bit controversial because we're not really sure it was its original habitat, but Norwegian decided to bring some muskox in Dovrefjell National Park some decades ago, and now there is a stable population there. Arctic tern, the longer migration on Earth between the Arctic towards the Antarctic and back every year. And then there are other mammals that are still found in the Arctic. This is the Arctic fox, one of the few land mammals you have in Svalbard. The polar bear is considered a marine animal. So the only land mammals are the Arctic fox and the Svalbard reindeer, which is subspecies of the reindeer. And the white, or also with this nice clouds as a background. But this is one of my favorites. It's a fox in the summer that was looking for eggs and chicks that fell off their nest. So it was constantly crossing this glacier to search, to check all the bird colonies. And I like to compose the image with this blue eyes, with this blue glacier front and the Arctic fox on top. As said before, they can be Arctic wildlife. They can be quite quite curious. So this is from last year. I used the 15 millimeters f1.2 and managed to get really close to this Arctic fox cub. So we wanted to check me and use this particular technique to take the background. Some Arctic species, but this is true in general for several bird species. We still see thousands of kittiwakes in the Arctic, but if we look at the numbers of the kittiwakes, their number dropped by 85% over the last few years. So they're not still considered at risk, but populations are really dropping very quickly in numbers. This is taken in Monaco Brain with this blue glacier as a background. So as said before, I like to combine wildlife photography to landscape photography, but photos, they get special when you have especially incredible weather or severe weather, like strong winds, blowing winds, snow, rain, and all the things like this. These photos are from Canada, from Hudson Bay. This is a red fox from Hokkaido with the strong wind blowing the snow on the face of the red fox. But also snow can be very good, and sometimes you don't need to have a snowfall to take these photos. You just need fresh snow and wind, and you can position yourself, you can position the animal in between you and the sun so that the backlit can create this effect on the blowing wind. This is an older photo you've probably seen before. This are Hooper's ones in Hokkaido, and it's interesting the combination between the snowfall, but also the sun breaking through the clouds. Rain is also interesting, especially when it's associated to thunderstorm. This photo is from Ethiopia in the rainy season. I like this season quite a lot because the sky is interesting, and you get this contrast. You have light breaking through. You have backlit on the animals. You see some animal behavior. It's grazing, so it's completely relaxed. I could approach close. They're not afraid of humans, and you can see the background with all these clouds that makes this image quite special. And this is a more fresh photo from 2 years ago of one of these male geladas that decided to stop on this big rock and to allow me to take a photo of this incredible background, or also a bit closer still in the same evening. The mist is also offers also very good possibilities when it comes to wildlife photography, especially the silhouettes that emerges from the mist. This is a blue heron in Louisiana from a few years ago, but this is a more recent image of a very thin mist morning from Cattle Lake in Texas. Even common species can become interesting when you have interesting background, and especially when you have a background with nice weather, nice. This is the misty morning on the Mara River, and this is it was a very famous lion. Now it is dead, but it was called Scarface, and it was blind from high, and it was already quite old. But the background was really nice, and the story of this lion is very interesting because when he had the cubs, the last time in his life, he didn't chase the cubs away, and allowed his two male cubs to take over the pride, and his sons kept feeding their father. It's a very unusual behavior for lions, so they allowed to eat their father that wasn't able to hunt, but could still rely on his sons to survive. So there's a very interesting story because he could barely walk when I photographed this lion, but he managed to survive for 2 more years just because the pride took care of him. This is from last year in the Mara. We woke up in the morning and found this these incredible layers of mist and lions. So again, it's the mist that makes the background, that makes the picture. Rain can be very good also. New cameras have a great capability in terms of ISO speed. So you can simply photograph, you can really photograph at night. When I took this photo, I was leading a group in Lake Nakuru National Park. It was raining heavily, I remember there were some giraffes in a place that we checked a few minutes before the rain started. And when I got there, I couldn't even see the giraffe. It was so dark, but I used the camera to find them and tried to photograph even at very high ISO speed. And here you can see the raindrops and the background of Lake Nakuru Forest. So I think this is quite a special image. It's a bit noisy, but then you get a very special mood behind this photo. You see the background, you see the raindrops, and you see the rain pouring on the giraffe. It's a Rothschild giraffe, so it's another endangered species. So I think this is quite an interesting photo, and it's from last year. The next morning, because of the rain, the humidity is high, and if you have a clear night, you often have mist on the lake. So I knew I would find mist on lake shore, and decided to try and photograph flamingos and pelicans. And in the background, you can see the dead forest that was killed by the rising level of the lake. So you can combine both the environmental issue regarding the rising level of lakes in the Rift Valley with this incredible background, the mist, and in the foreground you get this flamingos with beautiful colors. This is an older photo. You've probably seen this one of an elephant with. You have to be really close and to make sure that wildlife accepts your presence there. It's not easy to. You cannot simply walk towards an elephant and do this. You have to check that is okay with you, and then you can get quite close. This is taken at 16 millimeters, so you have to be about 2 meters or less than 2 meters away from the elephant. Still from the rainy season, I said that rain is very important. It adds quite a lot in terms of elements in the composition. This is a cheetah climbing on a termite hill, and you see the clouds in the background. You see thunderstorms approaching. So it's another interesting story and photo. Sometimes you just have to be super lucky. This series was shot in 2021. I was in the Masai Mara for a private tour for myself and a couple of friends. And in the dry season, a big fire broke out in the Mara. So we were quite disappointed because we wanted to have a different background, but then we realized that there were incredible possibilities regarding wildlife photography. So we decided to patrol the edge of the fire and to photograph the interaction between animals and fire. For example, here you see a white stork that is feeding on the insect that flees from the fire. So it was very interesting to witness the behavior of this stork. Or here you can see the silhouette of the wild beast on the horizon with this huge cloud of fire in the background. Or again here, this huge cloud of fire. This is the savanna burning, and you see the herd, the wild beast at the bottom, and a small tree on the left that balances the composition. If it rains, the grass will grow very quickly, so it's not a big environmental issue. I came back after 1 month, and it was already completely green. So the nature can be very quick there. By the way, the fact that it burned quite a big area in the Masai Mara, it affected the Great Migration that year. the wildebeest crossed the Mara and realized it was completely burned, so they decided to go back south, and only a few Earths entered into the Masai Mara in that year. Or sometimes you have to choose where to go if you want to find interesting environment. So I started last year to travel to the Himalayas and search for the snow leopard, and I've been very lucky both times because I both found good conditions, good snow, and also good wildlife. This is interaction between two red foxes fighting. It's not taken from a drone. It's just taken from a high cliff looking down. So it was nice to see the shadows of the foxes on the snow. And okay, these are the animals that we look for when you go there. This is from last year. It's two snow leopards mating. You see the male is the one at the bottom, and the female is, no, I think it's conference, sorry. The male is the one on top and the female is the one at the bottom. So I could see the interaction between these two animals. That was really, really incredible to see. And also again, here you see the male on the right and the female on the left. This year, we found the other two snow leopards, and they were young brothers. Their mother died, but they managed to survive, and they decided to live together. And this is the male crossing a frozen river, and you can still see the plants that carry the red leaves with autumn colors. So it was really beautiful, the combination of colors you can see in this image. Or here, both leopards in front of this frozen waterfall. Really incredible that they decided to just go there. You have to shoot from quite a distance, so you don't manage to get really close, but if you have a long lens, the possibilities are quite good. And it's an incredible animal. It can simply jump off a very steep cliff. Here they probably decided to jump from a cliff 30 meters high, just bouncing from one edge to of the cliffs to the other. It was really, really incredible, the jump that they did. Also, you can see some interaction. The first days they managed to kill an ibex, so they had meat, and they spent quite a lot of time playing. It was really good to see the interaction between these two incredible animals. Really, really special what we saw. We were super, super lucky. And also here you see them playing. And here in the snow, it makes a big difference if you find snow here. The week before we came this year, there was no snow, so it's in terms of photography, the background is not very good because it's difficult to distinguish the animal. It has pretty much the same color as the background. But when we were there, we had a small snowfall and everything changed. So we were extremely lucky. This is again from the year before, the two pair mating, the male on the right watching the female on the left, and the snow, which is really, really interesting and beautiful. But when it comes to photography, well, my personal style, well, I like the light, I like the colors, and I like the contrast. I've been fascinated by Flemish painters and for example, the Italian Caravaggio. I love that kind of style, and probably in my picture, I tried to keep some of this artistic knowledge I had from the Ike school, and probably I didn't do this on purpose, but I really enjoy when I can combine all these elements in photography. Like in this photo from Alaska, this was quite old. I really enjoyed that background, so I decided to put the camera on the tripod and just to focus on this background. And after a few days, this bear decided to pass just in front of this background, and that was really, really good for my photos, or sometimes you like details. But still, here you see the contrast on the pose of the bear. The bear was walking. It was fishing from the same spot, and after catching the salmon, it dragged the salmon on land, feeding on it, and then returning to the same spot again. So after a few times, I realized that it was always stepping on the same rock. So I pointed the camera at that rock and set a long exposure. I think it was 0.2 or 0.3 seconds, and press the button at the right moment. So the pose, they look still, but the water is moving, and you can see also 3 yellow leaves underneath the surface of the water. This is from a puma in Costa Rica, a super lucky environment, encounter actually. I didn't expect to find pumas there. I was just hiking with my wife, and I was there with a group of tourists. And so I was with 16 people not aware of wildlife photography. And the day before, my guide said to me, yesterday a friend of mine has seen puma tracks. Would you like to try and find it? So I said, okay, let's try. So we had to hike for 10 kilometers in the jungle. Not really easy, but then we managed to find this animal, and it was incredible how calm he was with so many people around. He simply didn't care about our presence, and he was about 10 meters away from us, completely relaxed, and we could watch this animal for almost 2 hours, and then he tried to hunt wild hogs in the forest, and we could simply follow him and really didn't care about our presence, and also managed to get a kill. So it was really amazing to observe this behavior. It's from a place where animals have always been protected. They've never been hunted by humans, so they don't know how dangerous humans can be, and they simply ignore your presence. And it's still a well-protected area, so it's really special to see the animal behaviors there. It's not just about pumas, but all wildlife. They simply consider humans are other elements in nature, and they're not afraid.
I will continue to do business the way I see fit.
Pardon? Oh, sorry.
I think you're fine, Marco. I think somebody just switched the microphone on by mistake, so that's sorted.
Okay, so it was a first question. Landscape. This is another place I really like, the rainforest in Ethiopia. Has beautiful shapes, beautiful landscape. This is a good spot to go when you're done with the Ethiopian wolf and the light is not really good on the plateau. During the day, you can simply go down towards the other side of the plateau, and there is this forest which is always in the mist during the day, in the rainy season, and it's very good for landscape. And you have these flowers growing in the bottom, and all this is pretty nice. Contrast is something you always look for in the morning. This is a roaring lion in the Masai Mara, a big male lion. The lion was walking parallel to a river, and we were just on the other side of the river where there was a road. So I asked my driver to please keep the lion exactly in between us and the sun. So we managed to have a few minutes of very good backlight condition, and it's quite cold in the morning, so the roaring condensates quickly, and you see this cloud that looks like it's spitting fire, but it's simply the backlight that it's roaring, and you get this. It's a very interesting photo. Also about contrast, this is the previous waterfall where I showed you in Ethiopia. These are red-winged starlings, and they just passed in front of the waterfall. So I didn't realize what it was when I took the photo. I just saw a lot of red dots, but then I realized there were their wings. And I think the contrast is pretty nice in this photo. You just see this red wings with this dark background and the lines, the V line in the background, which is the waterfall. Last lights, Ethiopian wolf on the Saneti Plateau. The very last rays of light, they hit the face of the wolf, and also this giant lobelia, which is growing and makes the decomposition. Or also a relatively new photo of Atchafalaya Basin in Louisiana, with this heron hit by backlit and the Spanish moss in the background. Or a more traditional leopard in the Serengeti. Multiple exposure in Alaska, Arctic ground squirrel, double exposure here. Brown bears fighting, two brothers. Again, similar idea with the black photos. I was leading a photo tour here. It was 2019, and I really enjoyed the background, so I decided to put the camera on the tripod and focus on this place. These are two brothers that they were playing very often, and they kept playing for about half an hour. So I saw this possibility and just focused on the background, and luckily they moved to the right place. The blurred foreground you see on the right edge and a bit on the lower part of the photo also makes the composition softer, and this is because since I was leading the workshop, I didn't want to stay in the first line and allowed the best view to my group. So I stepped back and I was a bit inside the forest, and I had to shoot through the leaves. That made this effect, but it turned out to be very good actually. This is not a wild animal. This is in a sort of controlled area in China, but still I like the background, the photo. It's quite interesting to see pandas anyway. Not many photos are found. I might try to find some of them in the wild in my next trip, but could be. I'm not sure I will be successful, so it's quite an experiment. This is a female cheetah with 7 cubs. Also, again, contrast green with yellow, and green color is always a good contrast with warmer colors like reds or yellow. This female had 7 cubs. There is another one you can barely see it. You can see its back under the matter. You can only see 6, but there were actually 7. Or again, Lake Nakuru forest with this leopard sleeping on top of the tree. The composition was really special here, and we used a quite long lens, so the background is blurred, and also the foreground is a bit blurred, and this helps to make the foreground and the background softer and focus and make the picture even more oniric. It's a jaguar in the Pantanal, almost at night. The very last light eating the face of the jaguar, and you see the dark forest in the background. I like the fact that it was sitting on these roots and exposed to the very last warm lights. Sometimes you just have to be super lucky, so you're there for the landscape. You position your camera on a tripod. You realize that the light is not really good, but at some point a macaque climbs from below and stops just in front of your camera. So I was really lucky to take this photo of a rhesus macaque in an area in central China. And then I realized that also their behavior was quite interesting, because they were feeding on this trees. It's a pine tree, and so I could observe these monkeys for a while, and also try to photograph done with a good background, which was pretty cool. Again, sometimes you're tempted of using a super long lens just to photograph the animal, but then you realize that you have a beautiful background and you can tell a beautiful story. This is a wild chimp with a baby. It's a season where they can eat fresh fruits. It's a fig tree, so I wanted to include in the composition also the fruits, but also the lines in the tree was quite interesting. They drag your attention towards the animal. So I really enjoy this this composition. Sometimes you don't have to go too long, because what you have around the animal can add quite a lot to the story, and also the image becomes much more powerful. New lenses. I also like to make experiments. 85mm f1.2. If you can get close, you can have a super nice background effect. I'm more, as I said when I started as a landscape photography and didn't care about conservation much at the beginning. Now I'm aware of this problem, but I'm more on the artistic side of photography. So in this last pictures, I wanted to show you a bit more of my personal style. Maybe these photos are not very popular, but I really like their composition, their colors, but especially the lines, the texture that you can see. This is from last year. These are the eyes of a leopard, photographed through high grass. Again, it's the Masai Mara. I was there with a group, and they wanted to go back to the lodge because the good light had already gone. But well, we had the leopard. It was really close, and he was quite active. So I decided to stay a bit longer and to try different things. So I really tried to. I wanted to try to shut the eyes through the eyeglass, and I really enjoyed this result. Or a more simple composition from the year before, a big line of the female impalas crossing again the eyeglass, and it was cloudy, so the sky was quite white, and the image is quite minimalistic, and really enjoyed this clean line of impalas. You can do the same. For example, here are flamingos in Lake Bogoria by multiple exposure. The background was not really interesting. The foreground was quite good, but the background was not interesting. So I decided to burn the above part of the frame just by adding a second shot to the first one, and just focusing on this line of flamingos. Simple composition, a very simple photo, high key. The high key cleans the image quite a lot if you don't have a super nice light. This is a clip springer in the Serengeti National Park, with this beautiful tree surrounding the image. Or these are cormorants in the Chafalaya Delta in a very, very foggy, super foggy day. This place is not really interesting if you go there on a clear day, because the background has a lot of elements that can disturb the image. But if you go here and it's cloudy, there are some super nice composition. So when I'm in this area, I always check the weather, and if we see that the next morning can be cloudy, we often go here. Drones, I'm not using drones much anymore, but I tried some experiments a few years ago. Here are some lesser flamingos, and this is another image of a snow leopard from last year. I really enjoyed the texture, the lines. I could see them on the background. I was there with other photographers, and they thought it was too far away, so they didn't didn't take any photos, but I realized that the background could be really, really interesting, and wanted to try the same. And I think this shot is quite good. It has a very, very clean texture in the background, and the snow leopard in the middle. You can also see the contrast between the color of the snow leopard and the almost black and white surrounding. Well, this is the mother, which is now dead, of this one. This is a son, and this is from this year, and really enjoyed the beautiful background, also with different shades of color. The foreground has warmer tones, and the background is colder. And here on the line you see the snow leopard walking. More creative flamingos, long lens, slow shutter, and can be nice to just to show the shapes, the composition here. This is another popular photo I took in 2019. This is the shores of Lake Natron. I really enjoyed the contrast between the colors of the flowers and everything else, which is completely gray, and the volcano breaking through this thin mist, and it's not mist, it's haze in the background. So this photo was quite popular that year. And again, drones, colors. This photo was taken by a drone in Lake Bogoria in 2018. Here, we realized that if you go to this place in the rainy season, the river that flows into the lake, they carry quite a lot of mud. So seen from above, the water is reddish, and here you see the flamingos that are walking through these muddy waters, and they leave tracks. So it's a very surreal photo. I really love it. This image was awarded at the GDT European Wildlife Photographer of the Year that year. So it's quite a special photo for me. Again, contrast and lion, not very interesting. Or also tried some minimalistic shots, but I'm not that I don't like that much this kind of photography anymore. But also I tried this kind of shots in the beginning. Anyway, clean compositions, they always work. Here you see, even if you believe that the light is gone, if you look for a new perspective, it can work. This photo is taken from Lake Nakuru around noon, when the light is not really good for photos, but there was no wind. The still surface of the lake was very good for reflection, so we decided to go to a place quite high and look at the lake from above. And I managed to photograph this flock of pelicans flying quite close to the lake surface. And here you see again the dead plants that grows on the lake shore, and also some clouds are reflecting on the lake. So it's quite surreal, this photo. Two Hooper swans in Hokkaido in a very misty morning, and they are much brighter than the background, so it's good to underexpose a little bit and get this contrast. I like to be creative. I like to use wide aperture lenses, especially 50mm and 85mm. This is from Madagascar. That year I spent about 1 week in the northeast, in the northeast, which is a very humid area. And after I moved to another place to photograph lemurs, and when I took the lens out of the backpack, I realized it was completely steamed from the inside. By the way, I tried to photograph anyway this lemurs, and the result was pretty interesting at wide aperture, because all the reflections in backlit created this crazy background. And this is a crown lemur, which is also critically endangered. So also this photo is one of my favorite, probably. It was winner of Aspherico last year. Okay, so that's it. I just wanted to show a few backstage photos. Sometimes it's not easy what we do, especially when you are in places where the environment, the weather is not very nice, like here in Svalbard during a snowstorm, with winds at 120 kilometers per hour. So it's really difficult to work here. The visibility, as you can see, was extremely poor, and we had to ride our snowmobiles for 4 hours in these conditions, so not very good. Sometimes you sleep in tent, your gear is exposed to extreme weather, but I have to say that nowadays they work very well. This is not my camera. I'm using Canon, so I've never used Nikon in my life. It's from a friend of mine. You have to carry your own gear, which is often heavy. And sometimes you have to sleep into beautiful but not very comfortable places. This is the river that I crossed to find the pumas. As I said before, the guide told me that we had to cross a small stream, and actually it wasn't so small, so it wasn't that easy to cross this river with all the gear, and also there were also crocodiles, so we had to be careful when doing that. And this is from snow leopard. You see, you have to wait. You have to be patient. They don't move much, so it can be quite boring. But also, the weather doesn't help that much. This is from last week. Well, it was great for photography, but temperature was -25, and it was windy. So that was one of the most difficult days on the field in my life, because it was really good to stay out, but also extremely cold. And we stayed out for almost 12 hours that day, because we spotted the snow leopard early in the morning, and well, 10 hours, let's say 8 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock in the evening, just to wait. But I think the results were quite cool. All right. So that's the end of my presentation. And if you have questions, please ask whatever you want.
Marco, thank you very much. That's been an absolutely fantastic presentation. If anybody has any questions that they would like to ask Marco, please put them into the chat facility, or if you want, please unmute yourself and ask them. I've been looking at the chat facility now, Marco, as you've been speaking, and the amount of comments in from our people who have been attending, which are very complimentary. It's absolutely amazing. One person actually described it as being a marvelous privilege to have been here today, to have seen your photographs, and to have heard what it is that you've been saying about them.
Oh,
Just
interesting
maybe.
question. I have a very interesting question. What do you think about the new regulations in Svalbard? Yeah, like many other photographers, of course, I totally disagree the new regulation. Also, I have friends that have been working as scientists in Svalbard, and they all are also against the new regulation. We don't really understand why it was decided to be so strict in terms of regulation. So yes, I'm also against the regulation, but we could talk for hours about this, and it's difficult to. Well, the regulation is this: if you see a polar bears, you have to leave, even if the polar bear is 300 meters away. You have to leave. You cannot get any closer, even if you are from a boat, even if everything is safe, even if the bear is relaxed. And more crazy, according to the regulation, if the polar bear spots you, even from far away in the distance, and even if it's extremely far away, you are supposed to chase the bear away. So even if the bear doesn't care about you, you are supposed to disturb the bear to chase the bear away. So totally crazy. I don't understand what Norwegians are going to do in Svalbard, but yeah, that's really sad. I've been working there for almost 20 years, and we really cannot figure out why they decided to put into effort such regulations.
There are some questions here about the equipment that you use. So Patrick is wondering, which camera and lens do you use? And Anita was wondering, how do you protect them from the extreme temperatures, and what kind of issues do you experience as a result of the extreme temperatures?
Okay. Regarding the lenses and the cameras, I've used Sony for a short while, but now I'm fully a Canon photographer. I use lenses between the 16 to 35 up to the 600 millimeters. I have a 600 f4, which was very helpful for the snow leopard, but I don't use long lenses often. So my favorite lens is 16-35 and 70 to 200 millimeters. So whenever possible, I use those two lenses. Then I have 100 to 500 millimeters. It's a very flexible lens. I don't like to use fixed lenses, especially in a safari, because I prefer to focus on the composition rather than on quality. So composition comes first, image quality comes second for me. So if you have a zoom lens, then you are more flexible with the composition. But in some cases, of course, you need the fixed lens. So when I photograph, typically I have two lenses ready, 70 to 200 and 100 to 500 on a safari. And then I have my 600 in my camera bag. So if needed, I will take it out, but normally it's not used. Regarding how to dress properly in such environment, well, it's not easy. I took a picture of all I had to put to get dressed, but I didn't download it from my phone, so sorry, I cannot show you now. But you have to. The big problem is that you have to stay outside for a long time. If you have a car or if you have a place where you can take a break, then it's easier. But Svalbard, winter, or snow leopard, usually you're supposed to stay out for sometimes even 10 hours in the snow, in the cold, and you need to be prepared for that. I was leading a group, and one day, which was very, very good for photography, almost everybody in my group decided to leave because it was too cold. So the day I photographed the snow leopard crossing the river, I was only with two remaining people, because all the other decided to leave because it was too cold. I have different layers, especially the raincoat is quite thick and heavy. It also depends if you have to walk or not. Regarding snow leopard, sometimes you're lucky and you don't have to walk far away. But for example, this year we had to hike above 5,000 meters. So it was a really long hike, and it's not easy to dress properly when you have to hike first and then wait at 30 degrees below zero, because that evening was 30 degrees below zero. So I put a lot of heavy clothes in my gear and walked with lighter clothes. And then when I reached the top of the mountain, I changed into warmer clothes just to remain still. We took this red jacket on, also proper shoes. So if you just have to wait, you can be prepared. But if you have to hike, then it's difficult, and it's very challenging to mix the possibility to hike with super heavy clothes.
I could imagine so, indeed. Some other questions that have come in. One is, how do you know so much about the animals as though it's on a personal level?
Well, I just learned almost everything on the field. My mother was a biologist, so it taught me a lot when I was a child, but most of the behavior I learned it from scientists, or simply just watching the animals on the field. Sometimes you travel with good guides that can teach you a lot about behavior. Sometimes you learn from other animal, and for example, cats, they share similar behavior. So you see a snow leopard, for example, I noticed a lot of behavior in common with cheetahs regarding snow leopards. That was really curious. Also regarding families and what they do after being left from the mother. So you never stop learning. It's very important, especially to know how the animal will behave when you try and get closer, if it's safe to do that, learning when the animal doesn't want you to approach. But this is something you learn gradually. So you don't have to run in front of the first gelada you see in your life, but it's a gradual approach. You move slowly, and see. I don't like to hide myself from animals. So normally I want that the animal understands that I'm there, and so it knows what I'm doing, and then it decides if coming closer or allowing me to get closer. I don't like to simply hide and try to steal the photo, because normally, well, it's very difficult to talk about this in Europe because animals are afraid of people. But in many places, animals are just not afraid of you. But this doesn't mean that you can simply go 20 centimeters close to the animals. It's just a learning process. So they are not afraid of you, but maybe they don't like to see you there. So I find it very easy when I show clearly my presence and look carefully and see if there is a chance to get closer. The pictures of the orangutan, for example, it took about 1 hour to get that close, because the animal was extremely wild. Hadn't seen probably many humans in his life. So at first it was at the same time curious, but also aggressive. So I was there with a guide, and the guide was trying to figure out the behavior of this animal. And it was a very, very slow process to make sure that the animal was comfortable with us, and the curiosity was greater than its potential fear against humans. So it takes time, right? Never have to stress the animal too much. We don't want to photograph. I have a good friend of mine that always says to me that we don't want to photograph the S of the animal. We want to photograph the face. And to do that, the animal has to be completely relaxed. Doesn't have to be afraid of you, doesn't have to be ready to leave. And we did that several times with polar bears, so that's also why I know Svalbard regulation very well. You never chase a polar bear. You just stop and wait. And it's simply the curiosity of the bear that makes him come closer to you. And this is something you observe in many wildlife.
Okay. And speaking there about an animal being afraid of you, have you ever experienced fear yourself as a result of an encounter with an animal?
Yeah, I had a very bad experience in Africa. 2016, I was almost sprayed by a leopard, but I wasn't taking any photos. I was just cooking pasta in a campsite, and it was a wild camp, so not fenced in Botswana. And at some point, the guide said to me, "There is a leopard, do not move." And I had one leopard less than 1 meter from me, ready to jump on me. It was night, so I remember that I did this with my arm, and I thought, okay, if I lower my arm, I can touch his head. So the guide was really, really quick at reacting. It took the torch and put the torch a few centimeters from the eyes of the leopard, and it slowly began to retreat. But that was something absolutely accidental. It wasn't while taking photos. It was night. We were simply enjoying the dinner, and it was completely unexpected.
One person has asked, she says, I notice a lot of your photographs have a soft glow about them. Is that because of the weather conditions and your technical things like aperture, or is it something you've done afterwards in the computer?
It's both. I try always to take advantage on a soft light, which means that I often try and photograph backlit with light filtered by leaves or by other elements, dust, snow. So it's something that I already look for while shooting, but also in the editing. For example, if you want to enhance a certain details, a certain texture, most photographers, they simply put details everywhere in the image. But this distracts a little bit the attention of the viewer. So what I normally do in the post-processing, I don't increase the local contrast, the clarity on the image everywhere, but only on the areas where I really want to see the texture, where I want to find the details. And so that's the resulting effect. It looks like it's softer, but it's just because I only put clarity on the places where I really want to see the details.
Okay, thank you. I think we've come to the end of the questions that are there, but I just have one myself. I noticed somebody put a comment in about looking forward to seeing your printed album. So do you have a book which will be printed and produced soon?
Not yet. I'm working on it. The problem is that now printing a book is getting very expensive. So
Yes.
I have a book ready, but I haven't printed it yet, but it's almost ready. It's almost
Okay.
ready.
Well, I'll be looking out for it when it appears. I think it'll be an absolutely fantastic book to add to a collection.
Thank you. The last question is very interesting. When you have big apertures, yeah, and big apertures and focus, I think that the new cameras do much better than the previous ones. So when Canon, I know Canon very well, but I think it's the same for Sony or Nikon. With a reflex camera, it was really difficult to use a wide aperture lens in the field. I remember using an 85 millimeters f1.2 was virtually impossible in the field. You couldn't focus. But with the new cameras, focusing is so much faster and so much precise that you can try. So the reason why I'm also carrying this kind of lenses is because I realized it is possible to do this. I remember in working with the black-crested macaque 2017, I tried to use the 85 millimeters, but couldn't focus in the forest. Last year with the chimps in Uganda, I found it very easy. Same lenses, different camera. So new cameras allows this.
Okay. And I think there's one final question here. Which tour company do you work with when you're organizing the workshops?
Well, I don't have a specific company. There is an Italian small company I work with sometimes. It's called GVF, but it's full Italian. It's called Grandi Viaggi Fotografici. So otherwise, I'm not actually leading other international tours. We started to talk about this possibility with the Nature Talks, which is a Dutch company. It's behind the Nature Photographer of the Year. But so far, I've only led tours for this Italian company.
Okay. I did see a comment in there from Hans Brines earlier on. So just to let you and Hans and everybody else know that the recording from this presentation this evening will be available on the FIAP YouTube channel, and all the recordings from previous presentations are also available there. It's a great resource for each of us to use ourselves and also with our photographic societies, our clubs and so on like that. Just please let everybody know about those recordings. Normally after presentation, it'll take us about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks to get everything ready, and then we'll post it up onto YouTube. So by the beginning of March, the recording from tonight will be there, but all the previous ones are still there as well. So Marco, once more, I just want to say a very, very big thank you for being here this evening with us, for sharing your absolutely wonderful images. And I'm going to say, let's have a round of applause. You won't hear it, but you'll see the hands going.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I don't know if Ricardo wants to say anything further.
Oh, absolutely wonderful. Wonderful presentation. Congratulations, Marco. Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
And Marco, just let you know, we were joined tonight not only by Ricardo from FIAP, but also by other members of the directory board, and also by J.R. Schnelzer, who I think you met earlier. He's the president of the Photographic Society of America. So it's fantastic that all of us, everybody has been here, but especially those people as well. So folks, I think that's it. We've come to an end. And we say thank you very, very much for being here. I know some people are here in Europe, so we're getting close to maybe it's time for a cup of tea and thinking about going to bed. And other people, like in the West Coast of the United States, are only starting their day, and others probably interrupted their sleep because they've come from further afield. But it's been marvelous to have you all with us, and thank you all very, very much. But most especially, again, thank you to Marco. And please keep an eye out on the FIAP social media and also on your emails, because we will be organizing more presentations later on this year. And as soon as the details are announced, we let everybody know about it. So that's it. And we say goodbye to you all. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marco.